show this morning. The topic this morning is the Republican Party, and we're fortunate to have with us to talk about the Tennessee Republican Party, Mr. RRichardson, who is the chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party. And Mr. Richardson, let me welcome you to the show this morning.
Well, thank you for having me, Dr. Haney.
Mr. Richardson, what we'd like to do is to give you an opportunity this morning to talk about the Republican Party, the National Party, as well as the Tennessee Party, and to talk about the campaign, the upcoming campaign, and your candidates. But before we get into that, let's have you to take a few minutes to give our audience some information about your background and education and the things that were important in leading you to become the chairman of the Tennessee Republican Party.
Well, Dr. Haney, I'm a native of Alamo in rural West Tennessee. That's a very small town. You tell me you're from Hope, Arkansas. Alamo is about 4 times smaller than Hope, Arkansas. I have a background in agriculture. I graduated from the University of Tennessee with a BS in agriculture economics, worked for a while, and then put my way through law school down at Memphis State. And I've done various jobs. My mother sometimes tells me I can't hold a job, but what I've tried to do is get a lot of life experiences. I've worked for a bank in Memphis. I worked in politics here in Nashville, where I first ran the Ronald Reagan campaign in 1980. I worked for the Tennessee Republican Party back in 1982 as its political director. I worked for the state of Tennessee as Deputy Commissioner of Agriculture when Lamar Alexander was governor. Worked in private enterprise for a company called Penn Holdings here in Nashville. And before I took this job, I was state director of the Farmers Home Administration, where we oversaw a big home loan and farm loan program. And I've been chairman since January 1993.
Very good. And Mr. Richardson, let's talk about the National Republican Party. And I think for the benefit of our audience this morning, they must know that your purpose for being here this morning is to talk about the National Republican Party, the State Republican Party, and to talk about your candidates and your campaign. And of course, you will be followed by Ms. Jane Eskins, who is the, chairperson of the State Democratic Party. And so what we want to do is to give our audience an opportunity to see both parties. And so if during this show that you become highly partisan, we want people to understand that, that we encourage you to do so, because we're sure that Ms. Eskins will be partisan within the sense of supporting her candidate, just as we expect you to support your candidate. And let's talk about the National Republican Party this morning.
Well, the National Party is enthused right now. As Haley Barbour says, it's a target-rich environment. As you know, politics is sort of like the tide. It goes out and comes back in. It went out for us in 1992 when George Bush was defeated. We think it's coming back in this year. Even the Democrats are conceding that we're going to pick up seats in the United States Senate. Haley Barbour, our national chairman, believes that we can actually capture control of the United States Senate. That would take 7 Senate seats, 2 of which are located right here in Tennessee. He also believes that we can gain as many as 25 to 40 seats in the U.S. House. It would take 40 for the Republicans to have control. The Republicans have not had control of the United States Congress since 1954. As you know, they make the budgets. The president proposes, the Congress disposes. We've had a Democrat-controlled Congress for 40 years. If we're going to get control of this deficit, we've got to have a change in Congress.
Let's talk about, now that's from a National Republican Party point of view. Let's talk about the state party. What's the status of the Tennessee Republican Party?
We're getting more volunteers. We have better candidates, and we're having more fun than we've ever had since I've been around politics. We think we're going to win, and win big in Tennessee.
And some of your candidates and some of your campaigns?
Well, we have to start with our statewide campaigns, Dr. Haney. We have a governor's race where we think we're going to win. At the time of this taping, our candidate for governor is ahead in all of the polls. Don Sundquist should be the next governor. We have an open seat where Al Gore left that seat. The Republicans like to consider that Howard Baker's old seat. And at this point in time, Fred Thompson appears to be coming ahead of Jim Cooper. Fred Thompson is of immense stature, as you know. He has a national reputation. Fred has led a big and bold life. And I think all Tennesseans can compare the stature of him and Jim Cooper, and the choice is very obvious. Our next race is a race that a lot of people are watching around the country because it pits Bill Frist, who was not even known to most Tennesseans only a few months ago, against Jim Sasser, an 18-year incumbent, who is slated to be the next majority leader. Dr. Frist, as you know, is an accomplished man. He's an author, a pilot. He started the Vanderbilt Transplant Center, and he's a person who, when we ask him, why do you want to do this since you save lives, he says this is about saving lives. This is about the way this country is going to live its own life the next few years, and I think we need a point of view of someone who's not been part of the problem for 18 years. Jim Sasser has an 18-year record, and he's down here running against himself. He says he's a conservative now. We see him riding around in police cars. We see him talking about cutting taxes. We see him talking about changing welfare, and yet Jim Sasser for 18 years has never talked about these things.
And so the outlook is quite bright for the Republican Party in the state of Tennessee.
We believe that it is.
State level.
And again, when we don't control any of these seats now, as you might put it, we have all upside potential, and we believe we're going to maximize that. The last time this happened in the country, Dr. Haney, was in 1978. Jimmy Carter was president. Walter Mondale had become his vice president and left an open seat in Minnesota. And all three of those statewide seats were up in Minnesota in 1978. They were all controlled by the Democrats, and Republicans captured them all.
And so the Republican Party is really planning on doing big things in terms of trying to capture these seats on the state level. Now, as the chairperson of the party, not only are you concerned with those state-level operations, you're also concerned with some of the other seats, some of the other campaigns in the state. Let's talk about some of those and what people can expect, why they ought to support these candidates.
No question about it. We think we can win up and down the ticket. In our 1st Congressional District, Congressman Jimmy Quillen has been there for many years and should get reelected without much trouble. Congressman Jimmy Duncan has a nominal opponent, and he should be reelected. And then we start getting really competitive. In the 3rd Congressional District, our candidate, Zach Wamp, ran last time in a bad Republican year and got 49% of the vote. I think he forced Marilyn Lloyd to retire. He is considered to be the odds-on favorite to win right now.
Now, is that an open seat now?
That is an open seat right now. And Zach, again, ran last time, almost won, has gotten support of people both locally and nationally, and should win that race. In the 4th Congressional seat, that's an open seat because Jim Cooper is running for the U.S. Senate. Our candidate is Van Hillary. He was born and raised in the district, went to public schools, was a decorated veteran in Desert Storm as a small businessman. Their candidate, Jeff Worley, graduated from college, went to Washington and became an aide to Bart Gordon, and has been trained in the ways of Congress and the corridors of Washington. And the one thing Tennesseans don't want is they don't want another person who's been trained in Washington. And so we think Van Hillary has got a good chance for that because he reflects the beliefs and attitudes of that district. In the 5th Congressional District, that's an uphill climb. John Osborne is a bright, attractive young businessman who's taken on Bob Clement. As you know, this district is pretty much overwhelmingly Democrat.
Now, this is the Jackson district.
This is the Andrew Jackson district, and that makes it tough. I will say this about John. He has displayed a splendid aptitude of identifying the issues. He's taken on Bob Clement face-to-face and won hands down every time they've appeared together, and he's getting a lot of support. I think Bob Clement knows he's going to be in a race. In the 6th Congressional District, our candidate is Steve Gill, who has his roots deep in the 6th Congressional District. He was raised the son of a military officer who was born in the 6th Congressional District and has lived all over, but his roots go back 6 generations. And he's finding he's got a lot of Democrat cousins who want to support him these days. He's running against Bart Gordon. Bart was elected in 1984. Bart has a fairly liberal voting record. Bart was challenged last time and spent $900,000 to his Republican opponent's $170,000, and she got 43% of the vote. We think Steve will be well funded. He is perceived to be a conservative. He is connected